Hello and welcome tonight, one and all, to another episode of Level 1 Adventuring. I am your host and Dungeon Master, Wolfe Scott. Tonight, I'm going to let you know what we're doing early on. I'm going to hit you with our scary, spooky Halloween Solo TTRPG event that we're running for October, which is 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, which is going to be a lot of fun. But before we head into that, if you're new to this channel, who are we? What is this? Level 1 Adventuring is a stream that is dedicated to role-playing games and tabletop role-playing games and storytelling games in general. So what does that mean? We play a bunch of different series, some that you're probably familiar with, big group games, fantasy games like D&D. We have an ongoing 5th edition D&D campaign that usually runs Wednesdays that happens on this channel that I Dungeon Master. And then we also play smaller, more intimate solo affairs, much like tonight with Vampire, 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, not Vampire the Masquerade, that is an entirely different TTRPG game. Or we also run playthroughs of Tales of the Burned Stones, Firelights, we got a couple different things going. We also run D&D and other RPG adjacent games, video games such as Baldur's Gate 3, Solasta, all that fun stuff. So if you're into those types of games, please check us out here, give us a like or follow, and also on our YouTube. Actually, now that I think about it, last stream I talked about how the Twitch and the YouTube were kind of at this battle to see who would hit 200 followers first. And it turns out the battle is already over because YouTube did it earlier today. Just a couple, like 15 minutes ago before I went live, we hit 200 on YouTube. So thank you so much. Please continue to show us your support across all the platforms. We appreciate you so much. It means so much to us. And hopefully we can get Twitch there next. Also, speaking of socials, follow us on all the platforms. We post go-lives on Twitter and on our Discord. I also share homemade, mostly 5th edition monsters and magic items on those channels. And also, the Discord will be a play-by-post space for the community soon. So there's just a lot that you can interact with in terms of the channel, and we hope that you spend some time doing so. Also, a big shout out to all of our stream partners and people who help make our sort of content come alive. That would be Streamlabs, Stream Audio, Stream Spell, Tabletop Audio, AI Twitch Bot. All of those services help engage with the chat, make things a little bit more interesting. If you want to use those services yourself, we have a link down below in the description. If you use it, we get a little boost. It helps you, it helps us, everybody wins. We thank you. I'm going to catch up a little bit on chat, which I had been missing. Nar, hello! Thank you for joining us once again. I see you are lurking because you're working on your new PC tonight. Fancy, fancy. Now you'll be able to play all the really good games that I can't play, so, you know, consider me jealous. But that's exciting. And then, woo, congrats. Yes, congrats indeed for that 200 mark. We are creeping ever closer to YouTube monetization, which in the content creator sphere is really just the tip of the iceberg, but you got to start somewhere. So that is where we are at tonight. So thank you. But back to what we're doing tonight. It is Halloween. I tried to wear a Halloween-themed shirt, so I got the Mothman. The Mothman is with us doing creepy Mothman things. But tonight is not about moths, but it is about another flying supernatural creature of the night. Tonight is about vampires. We are playing 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, which is a solo journaling RPG. So what does that mean? That means there's not going to be a lot of crunch, not going to be a lot of battle mechanics or things like that, but there are a lot of narrative-based prompts which the game presents to us depending on a few die rolls, which we then interpret to further along the story of our vampire, who will hopefully, fingers crossed, live at least 1,000 years, but maybe will find their end before then. The game focuses on themes of loss, both loss of memory and experience as your vampire lives for, you know, untold amount of time, but also their sort of erosion of humanity as they slip further into bloodlust and depravity and all the terrible things that, you know, their new state of undeath really bequeaths unto them. So what I think I'll do is I'll switch over to the solo stream so we can see our PDF of the game. and I'll also put on performance mode. A thing I should say about this game, I'm running the PDF version because obviously it is very easy for the stream setup to run it via the stream and the PDF, but the physical version of this game is absolutely beautiful. If you can see, I didn't want to lose my page, but I guess it really doesn't matter. The game is like designed as this very evocative, sort of cobbled together diary of sorts with all of this beautiful pieced together art. And the physical version of this book is gorgeous. I do have the physical version being delivered to me, but hey, you know, we had to start somewhere, so the digital version shall suffice for now. But I'm going to go back to the prompts, because the prompts is where the story really develops. Speaking of prompts, before we start, I'm not going to do a huge rules through like I did for the first stream, right? If you want to learn specifically all the mechanics of this game, I'll try to describe them as they come up, but if you want to learn specifically how to play on your own, and you can't glean from what we're doing in this playthrough, check out episode 1. It is still live on Twitch. It is now live on YouTube. I do a full read-through of the rules leading into character creation in the beginning of the episode, and it all is timestamped. So you can definitely, I think you can definitely pick up what we're doing as we go, but if you need a refresher on the rules and want to learn yourself, that's where you should check out. But before we talk about what will happen, let's talk a little bit about what has happened, right? If you're tuning in and you are unfamiliar with what has transpired so far, I'll give you a brief overview of what has happened with our vampire through the chronology, the shorthand of our prompts that we've received so far. Who is our vampire? Our vampire is Giorin Volkilov. Giorin Volkilov was a peasant soldier in the lands of Strigovol. He served a noble by the name of Crown Kata in a series of wars, was conscripted into the army. Served faithfully, made name for himself, but did manage to get himself into a little bit of trouble. He primarily did two things. Number one, Giorin did steal from the spoils that were supposed to be delivered to his noble liege, Crown Kata, to help bolster his own riches, to help his family. He was never caught for this crime, but unfortunately another one of his fellow soldiers was blamed for it. He never admitted to the crime. They were punished. This was done with the aid of another soldier by the name of Valeria, who will come up a little later. Giorin also, during these wars, these conflicts, that is how Giorin became vampire. It turns out there was a rival soldier, a mercenary, by the name of Radhu the Red, who was serving the enemy forces, who was in fact a vampire. And Radhu used his status as a soldier as a cover to hunt other soldiers, feed upon their blood, etc. We crossed Radhu's path. Unfortunately, we were felled in battle, or at least we believed we were felled. We were drained of our blood, but because of, who knows, perhaps just hate or strength of form, we persisted beyond death, and when we awoke, we too were vampire. And that was sort of the birth of Giorin, right? The vampiric rebirth of Giorin, I should say. So then, after those events, what happened? Giorin finds himself in the Morvengrad wood, hiding from townsfolk and feeding on animals. So, shortly after my transformation, I was afraid I would wound innocents. So I used my knowledge of the woods outside of my village of Morvengrad to hide myself away and just feed on wildlife. Unfortunately, as my hunger grew deeper, in this blood hunger, I mistakenly fed upon my own sibling, Zophie, who was a fellow forest wanderer. Zophie came looking for me in the woodlands, and unfortunately, I was too obsessed, I was too hungry to see my mistake before it was too late. Narsa's gotta go, but I'll keep the stream open to support you. Oh, thank you, of course. And also, good luck to you building your new PC. I hope it is exactly what you want it to be. So unfortunately, we drained Zophie of all life, and this was a pretty traumatic experience for us. Then, from this experience, we decide to take a note from Radhu the Red's book and decide, well, if we cannot keep our family safe staying near Morvengrad, we must travel. So we too become a sword for hire, we become mercenary, we hire ourselves out to serve in other theaters of war across Rigoval and beyond, and we are feeding on enemy soldiers along the way. This is, however, when we take the life of former comrade Valeria. Valeria helped us steal the gold a while back, but once we had to return back to our cache to restore our own riches, we find Valeria trying to pilfer from our share, from underneath our noses, and Valeria, knowing that there had been mysterious murders and disappearances in the wood, says she will turn us in as a bandit, as a brigand, if we do not give her the coin she desires. But little does she know, we are not bandit, we are vampire, and to punish her for her misdeed, we do feed upon her as we be rid of her mortal form and body. So that was something that was pretty dark that happened. Then a bunch of time passes. The game plays with time very loosely, right? You'll see as we begin to actually roll through the new prompts. So a big span of time happens. And during this time, the Khatan dynasty, the noble that we once served, right, actually becomes our servants. They bind themselves in ritual service to Gyorin, and they offer me blood and flesh from their own numbers to keep in my good graces. They sort of establish this lottery system where certain people are chosen, to be fed to their lord. It's all very dark, but we are fed for quite some time. And this causes another great stretch, as we are essentially sated without any consequence for hundreds of years. The heirs of Kata serve into death and beyond, and we essentially keep to our underground confines. We are safe in the dark, well fed, nothing much happens. A lot of time passes. Then, so much time passes that the Khatan dynasty creates an entire religion based around blood offerings and combat, since I am, of course, a warrior of some great renown. Instead of drawing lottery numbers to feed the progeny to me, they now hold ritual gladiatory combat, and only the strongest, the ones who defeat all of their rivals, ascend to championhood, are then fed to me. So I drink only the strongest, only the best of the best, which of course once again makes me even more potent. But this is when things take a turn for the worst, as the ghost of Valeria visits us in a nightmarish vision, as all of the victims of my past come to confront me and punish me for the crimes I have wreaked upon mortals. I have been branded by a wraith-like sigil across my chest, and now I feel the pain that I inflict upon others, the suffering that I put onto another mortal, I now endure. I am cursed. So this is, as you can imagine, quite difficult for a vampire, since that is mostly how we stay alive, is by causing pain to others. So that will be an interesting thing we have to work around. And then finally, our last event before game ended last night, we tried to find peace and solace from all of the pain and death that we, and now the new complication of our curse. So we take some time to wander the forest grounds in Morvengrad. We use it as a means to quell our blood hunger so that we do not have to hunt as often, because when we hunt, we ourselves do hurt as well. And so that is where game sort of ended. We were wandering the woodlands, sort of meditating upon our existence and trying to reconcile this new conundrum we found ourselves in. He's live, we won! What, did you not think you would win? Fleetwood, did you think we would lose? I knew we were going to win the entire time. So yes, that is where our game ended, was with Gioran taking some time to reflect upon all of the misgivings of his past within Morvengrad Wood. And this is where the story will now pick back up. So I'm pretty excited. I've had a lot of fun with Thousand Year Vampire so far, and I think we're just going to jump back into it. So as we can see from the chronology, the last thing that we did was we had prompt 11, which is right here in the book. How do you find solace from the raging hunger within you? You may lose a checked or unchecked skill. So as we said, I am now finding solace from the raging hunger by wandering the woods of Morvengrad, by meditating on life and death and my place within it. And now we get to see if we move either forward or backward through the prompt. So how is this done? Here's where the rules happen in real time, right? So basically, if you're playing this game physically, you could use real dice. I'm going to use digital dice. You're going to roll a d10, a 7, pretty decent number, and then you roll a d6. A 1, okay. What you do then is you minus the d6 result by the d10 result, and that determines whether or not you move further down into the prompts or backward. You can actually roll negative numbers, right, or even the same number, and that will determine whether or not you take an event that has transpired before or after your current number. All of the prompts do have multiple scenarios, so if you do roll the same number multiple times, that, does not prevent you from completing the story. But that is essentially how we decide what next we encounter. So if we take 1 minus 7, we have 6, we're at 11, the event, which means now we take a look forward at prompt 17. You commit a despicable murder, but not for the sake of feeding. Why? Check a skill. Remove a mortal character if you like. Interesting. So what is peculiar about this particular prompt is during one of our last events, right? We actually lived for so long that like most of the mortal characters that we knew in life, our family, our original liege lord, right? They perished. Like we've jumped forward. I'd probably say at least a generation or two ahead in time beyond, or maybe even multiples at this point, because we had like 2 time rolls. So we don't really have a lot of current living characters, but what we can do is we can generate one. And I also have up with me the GM emulator. This is a tool I love to use when I'm running solo RPGs because it has really great prompts, right? So what would be an event that would cause us to murder, but not for the sake of feeding? And we have to check a skill during this, which means it kind of has to relate to one of these skills that we have. So it's definitely not going to be bloodthirsty because we are not feeding for the purposes of bloodlust. But let's see. Let's roll some prompts on the GM emulator and see what we come up with. So I'm going to roll 2d100. Bum, bum. We got 50 and 100. Wow, that's a pretty interesting split. So we have debase information. Ooh. I also sometimes like to look at the inverse to see if that strikes any different chord. So the inverse would be change, travel. No, I think debase information is too good. I think debase information is very, very good. And what that sounds like to me, debase information, is someone who knows, who has information about us which would otherwise be compromising, right? Who maybe knows something about our secret, right? So why don't we go back to, we have to choose a memory to slot this in. This is how the game works. You essentially have to, once you roll a prompt, you have an experience. The experiences have to fit into memories, which you will lose as time rolls on, which of course will then, you know, change certain things about your character. If this is information about us that is compromising, there's a part of me that wants to slot this into terrors from the past, or maybe even founding memory. The founding memory, terrors from the past. Trying to see, I see Valeria again. So this memory is where we killed Valeria. This memory is also where we are cursed from Valeria. Right? Yeah. What if the courage degree, the sanctities, the more I think back upon, I recall less and less. One of the costs of the treetops. What if this is pertaining to the murder? What's my skill? Sword for hire or trained soldier, right? Like someone has clocked that we bear striking resemblance, right, to a soldier. We were once landed gentry, right? Like we were a knight. We were ascended into a lower rank of nobility. We had land. That was one of our resources in Morvengrad. So what if someone has started to finally put the pieces of the puzzle together, that this mysterious knight who one day disappeared bears a striking resemblance to this other figure who's been spotted in several different theaters of war across, you know, spans of years that would not be natural for a mortal to live. That's interesting. So I think that would probably fit. Maybe this actually fits under Knightly Ascension, because it's playing off of my trained soldier experience. So let's say this is experience 3. We are going to make this red, because that is what helps me differentiate the experiences, right? And now, let's sort of let us go into the mind of Kieran, and let us find a name. Perfect. This individual, as I wander through the ruins of Old Morvengrad, I find myself drawn to my old manor, which was bequeathed to me in the time of my service to Crowned Kata. The memories of my time spent within its halls, and now seeing it changed hands over so many years and left to disarray, makes me wonder about my own longevity and antiquity. Surprisingly, this brings me, I cannot spell. Surprisingly, this brings me a sense of calm, knowing that in time, all will be returned to that which birthed it. The stone the soil, the timbers. It swallows the manor whole. I find myself on many such nightly walks, followed by a lone, mysterious figure. At first, I ignore their presence, not wanting to draw undue attention to myself or harm another innocent in fear of suffering pain myself. In fear of suffering their pain, I'll say. But my avoidance can only go so long before they finally confront me. They claim to be a historian of sorts and have a good knowledge of the lords, ladies, and lairds who once kept vigil over the estate. In no uncertain terms do they insinuate that I, myself, strike more than a passing resemblance to the original manor's owner. This knowledge they have, what they can do with it, is too dangerous to be left unanswered. Unanswered. I cannot spell unanswered. There we go. I try to threaten them into standing down from this foolish crusade, but they do not know the truth of my power and insist that what would they be searching for? Maybe their own way to immortality? Insist that I relinquish the secrets of immortality, lest they offer my secret to the public. I deal with them swiftly and as humanely as I can, as each blow from my claws and fang I feel reflected upon my own dulled flesh. Still, I drink deep of them. I will need this blood to sustain me for a time. Right? So I don't kill because of bloodlust, but I do kill... I mean, I might as well drink them, right? Like, it's a waste of blood if I don't. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, so then we mark off. I have to check a skill to do that, right? Yeah. So who is this character? I guess we automatically write them off, but I'll say this character 13. What was one of the names I generated earlier? Marcellus. So this is Marcellus, male, a historian seeking immortality. And they were killed after an extortion gone wrong. Nice. So we go back to the chronology. So we are on prompt 17. So in short, what happens here? A misguided. Ooh. I don't know why OneNote seems to be shaking so violently every time I type. A misguided historian seeking eternal life confronts me on the grounds of my old ruined manor, holding my true identity hostage. I cannot allow this rat to breathe my true nature to the public. He is dealt with quickly and ended. And that is prompt 17. Alright. Oh, let's go there. So now, not primped, but prompt. Prompt. We got a prompt. Alright, so now let us go to the dice. We're gonna roll another d10. Ooh, we rolled a 1. We might be rolling backwards. We're gonna roll, yes, we're gonna roll back to, we're gonna roll back 1 space, right? Because if you go 2, then 1, then -1, right? 2, 1, -1. So we are at prompt 16. Oh no! This actually makes sense. Some mortals have banded together to hunt you, well armed and wise to your tricks. How do you defeat or evade them? Create a mortal hunter related to one of your checked skills, then check a skill. Ooh, that's cool. Alright. So first of all, I'm gonna roll a d6 to determine their sort of like identity. Alright, so we got a lady hunter. Oh, nope, we don't want to open pages. We are gonna open our characters. Living characters. So this character, who's brand new, let's increase the size of our font here. This character's name is, let me look at my, her name is Anastasia. How's that spelled? Anastasia. She's female. She is a hunter. Okay. Now, she has to relate to one of my skills. How do you defeat or evade them? Create a mortal hunter related to one of my check skills. So skills. I feel like it should be wood lore because we are on, so we are in Morvengrad. That is where our manor stood. We used to take solace in the Morvengrad wood, right? So this hunter is probably someone who has been studying supernatural events happening. Fleetwood. That's so exciting. I forgot that we had the dice to roll, and you rolled a 2. Okay, we'll keep that in mind as we play forward. Yeah, I think this hunter would, you know, be investigating supernatural events in the area, would probably have heard the rumors of all the disappearances in the Morvengrad wood, would probably be able to track down, you know, the inferences of blood hunger and like the corpses and the drained bodies over time, right? And so we would evade them by using the woods because we ourselves are like the master of the wood, but now the woods are compromised, right? It's no longer safe for us to stay there. Our sanctuary in the forest has been found. So I think we should strike the wood lore skill, and the hunter will pertain to that skill. Ooh, that's cool. I dig that. Okay, so let's go back here. So we strike our skill, we go back to our memories. I think this one actually is a good one to fit into Terrors from the Past, which this will be the last memory that we can experience we can fit into this memory. So if I go to experience 3, and let's color this red. So even though we killed the historian, right? The jig is up, as they say, right? Even after dealing with the troublesome historian Marcellus, tales of his death spread like wildfire throughout Morvengrad. These whispers catch the ear of one Anastasia, if I'm spelling that correctly, a hunter of vampires and undead who has long been focusing her attention on the woods I once called my sanctuary. Marcellus's disappearance and subsequent scene of the crime was all she needed to confirm her suspicions. She rallies the townsfolk of Morvengrad to her aid and whips them into a frenzy. Oh, did I say rallying? Yes. Urging them into Morvengrad with stake and torch in hand. My knowledge of the ancient wooded paths affords me opportunity to escape, but my what's another word for escape? But my success is slim, and my lair is burnt in its entirety. I can never return to Morvengrad, my once home, or the woods which I once called my solitude. Anastasia is evaded for now, but she has my trail. It is only a matter of time before our paths once again cross. Perfect. Alright, that is experience 3 in Terrors from the Past. So, I think we go to skills, so we crossed off Woodlore. Let's go back to the chronology to record the event. So that was event 16. So in short, what happens here? The murder of Marcellus raises the attention of vampire hunter Anastasia, who calls to arms the people of Morvengrad to lay waste to the forest and my sanctuary there. I live. Well, does a vampire truly live? I survive. But the woods are now lost to me. Well, so that's also very, that's a very harrowing situation for Gioran to be in, considering that the Morvengrad Wood was what he was using his time spent in the forest as a way to sort of clear his head, quell his bloodlust, prevent him from feeling the urge to hunt, especially other humans, so rapidly. So yeah, not only is he less safe because Anastasia, this new vampire hunter, now is more keenly aware of his position, but this place that he once called his safety has been razed. So there we go. We got some good drama points happening here. Gioran, what are we to do with you, Gioran? And that was prompt 16, so I should make a note of that again in case prompt 16 becomes promptinent. Don't hate me, I love a bad pun. Alright, so some mortals together. Yes. Okay, so now back to the gameplay loop. We have to see what happens to our vampire from here. We're currently at prompt 16. As the game instructs us to do, we roll a d10, a 5, about midway. Then we roll a d6. Ooh, okay. Now we have to jump back 1 again to 15. Interesting. So let's take a look here. While traveling, we come into conflict with another immortal. Ooh. Who are they? What trick do you play upon them? Create a new immortal character. Interesting. So immortals are like other supernatural beings. They don't have to be vampires specifically. They can be like any other, long existing being, right? So I play a trick on them and I gain a mark. That is very, very interesting. Let's go back to our event generator here, and let's get an idea of maybe who this might be. I think there is. It's not this booklet, unfortunately. I think there is another book for NPC generators. But because I don't think I saved that tab, I'll just use this to help me. So who is this person? Let's roll a 74, divide 82, divide a dispute. We could also flip it, and that would be an activity 74 of liberty. Interesting. Ooh, I have an idea too. We also have our handy dandy AI Twitch bot here, Beans. So I can say, hey Beans, give me a list of a few different supernatural creatures that one might find in a Slavic, Gothic, horror, dark fantasy story. And let's see if they give us a good recommendation. Ooh, let's see. Vampires, yes. Werewolves, witches, ghosts, and ghouls. Ghosts and ghouls. These creatures add another level of spine-chilling threat. Ooh, okay. I mean, werewolf is obviously a little on the nose, but we are in the woods, or we were at least running through the woods. So perhaps that is a pretty good fit. And then we have divide a dispute. That could be the trick that we play upon them, right? Divide a dispute. Or the other option would be, if we flip it, divide dispute 74, 82, activity of liberty. Ooh, activity of liberty. Ooh, okay, now I'm getting an idea. Because what if I said Anastasia was here hunting other creatures, right? Like other supernatural events. So what if we run into a werewolf which was caught by Anastasia, and there's like a moment where we can free them, right? They sort of call out to us, but we know that if we... Oh, but wait, if we let them go, then maybe Anastasia's attention will be divided. It's either... But it says a trick. Which implies we don't let them go. But it has to be to our benefit. So why would not letting this creature go benefit us? I guess what trick did you play upon them? That could be Anastasia, you know? I kind of like that. I think that's the way I want to take this. So we have, the event is an activity of liberty. And it's a trick that we play, right? I'm just making some notes here. Oh, I should put this... Oh, I actually have to figure out what memory this goes under as well. I might act... Oh, boy, this is going to be tough. Let's go to my memories here. Terrors from the past. Founding memory. Spoils of war. Nightly ascension. Wow, all my memories are starting to get full. Vampiric birth. Maybe... Maybe I have to create my first diary? Because I don't think this goes under Vampiric Birth. It doesn't fit under Nightly Ascension. It doesn't fit under Founding Memory. Like, it could fit under Terrors of the Past, but that one's full. I have 3 experiences there, and that's the maximum amount of experiences that a memory can hold. So if I take a look at the diary rules, I want to clear this up for myself. A diary can hold 4 of your vampire's memories. Your vampire can have 1 diary at a time, and it must contain at least 1 memory. There is 1 way to preserve memories when you run out of space. Instead of losing a memory, you can move it into a diary. A diary can hold 4 of your vampire's memories. Okay. Yeah, maybe that's what we do. So we can start freeing up a new memory slot. So Terrors from the Past. These memories include, this includes the nightmare that I have of Valeria, the ghost. This includes, the wandering through the woods after being cursed, trying to, like, reconcile, you know, what has gone wrong with me after being cursed by Valeria's ghost. And then this is me killing Marcellus, who found me because I was spending too much time near Morvengrad after fleeing to the woodlands. So I think this is probably the memory that needs to get sorted into a diary. So yeah, let's make our first diary entry. So this one I'm going to call the Book of Misdeeds. That sounds like a pretty pretty evocative title. So this can hold, the Book of Misdeeds can hold 4 memories. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to go to my memories, and I'm going to move the first memory into the diary. So Terrors of the Past. The rule states that I should give a description of the Book of Misdeeds. So what is the Book of Misdeeds? I feel like at this point I'm kind of on the run. I'm trying to stay alive. I'm on the run. It can't be anything that is too difficult to keep with me. So perhaps the Book of Misdeeds. Maybe it's not so much a book as it is... Like, what would you call a small... like a pocket diary? Yeah. So, like, the Book of Misdeeds is a battered, time-worn leather pocket journal. And what would I do? This is sort of like Yoren's everything that he's ashamed of. So I imagine that he wouldn't want people getting to it very easily. So the Book of Misdeeds, like a locked journal just seems kind of simple, but let's say a time-worn leather pocket journal. It is locked tight by a key which I wear around my neck under my coat and shirt. Inside, what's the word I want to use? Frenzied scribblings of my shame and darkest hours fill every page, squeezed tightly into crowded margins, including rough sketches of nightmares and painful remembrances. Yeah, there we go. That is the Book of Misdeeds. A time-worn leather... instead of pocket journal, let's just say a time-worn black leather tome. Journal. Yeah, we'll say journal. Nice. I can't spell darkest, but we have the Book of Misdeeds. Okay, so now back to this event. We come into contact with another immortal, gain a mark. Who are they? What trick do you play upon them? So this is a new memory. And this new memory is, I'm going to call this the Hunter and the Hunted, right? Because that's kind of what this entire section is about, is like us trying to avoid Anastasia, in cooperation with another supernatural being. So who is this supernatural being? Let's roll a couple of things here. Let's roll 86. So that... Ooh, a lady werewolf. What's a good... Do I have a good lady name here that I can reference? See if I can give myself a few new ones. How about... Ooh, that's a fun one. Elisaveta. Or, ooh, Marzina. That's a cool werewolf name. Marzina. Okay. So the Hunter and the Hunted. This is experience 1. And then let's go to the memory. As I evade my captors and slayers in the Morvengrad wood, I come upon the camp of Anastasia. Her forward base of operations as she hunts me and other supernatural beings across Morvengrad. Here, I find a wild-eyed woman bound in silvered chains. What's the word? When you like, not holster, but bound in silver chains, bolstered to a tree, like a dog on a leash. My acute senses does not, I should say, for a moment, a pang of hunger sweeps me. But my acute senses does not smell mortal blood before me. She is something else. She is a lycanthrope. A werewolf. And she is one of Anastasia's most recent finds. She begs for her freedom. I have no particular allegiance to this werewoman. And then her name was, once again, was it Marzena? This werewoman, Marzena. But her freedom will buy me precious time to escape. I have to gain a mark from this. In D&D, silvered weapons have an effect on vampires, right? 5e vampires. Damage resistances. Oh, not really, no. Vampire weakness, harmed by running water, stake through the heart. Although I do know in a lot of, like in Skyrim, for example, silver is more effective against undead creatures. So maybe it's not like an innate weakness of vampires, but maybe this could still be something that is, painful for the undead to manipulate. That could be the mark, right? So it's like, the chains are magically warded, right? And they're silvered. So I don't have a lot of time to find a way to free her. So maybe I just have to break them physically, but it burns my palms, and that will be the mark, as I have these sort of these burn marks across my palms that represent me they're and they have the chains, the chain pattern. Ooh, that's very metal. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Without much time to think, I grab her silver chains and find them to be magically warded. They burn my undead flesh, but they yield to my unnatural strength all the same. I cannot spell once again. Marzena howls in excitement, and we trade one knowing glance before she scurries off into the dark of the woods. My hands still burning and steaming vex me as I continue to flee till the morning. Huh? How about that? That's kind of cool. I think that's a really cool memory. Fleetwood, is that cat the knowing glance, that like that squinted eye, that like, what are you doing? That discerning gaze. That is the vibe I picked up from that emoji. All right, so a couple of things happened here. First of all, we gained a new immortal, Marzena, the werewolf. I mean, werewolves are cool, and also this is a Halloween stream, right? So, like, if we're not gonna have a werewolf, and of course, you know, I'm Wolfe Scott, so if I don't have a werewolf, it is true. We've had a ghost, we've had a werewolf, we've had a vampire, obviously. We should try to hit all the big ones. You know, if more immortals come up, we should get a zombie. We should get maybe like a creature of the Black Lagoon. We should get maybe a mad scientist and a flesh golem. We'll see if we can really turn this into a monster mash. We'll see if we can turn this into a graveyard smash by the end of it. But Marzena the werewolf. So Marzena was a captive of the of the hunter Anastasia, who I freed while escaping Morvengrad Wood. We had little time to exchange pleasantries, but no doubt her escape has caused Anastasia to route her attention away from my course, at least for a time. There we go. And I can actually probably even copy this into the chronology. And that was prompt 15, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Prompt 15. And the mark that I have, so the first one that I got was Rodhu's Scars. The second one I got was the ghostly sigil on our chest, which we got during our nightmare from Valeria's ghost. So now we have the silver chain burns. A series of magical blemishes forever burned into the palms of my hands, while breaking free the binds of Marzena the werewolf. They occasionally they bear the patterns of chain links and still occasionally smoke and ache. There we go. That's cool. I dig that. Yeah, and then level 1 adventuring, like literal flame flame emojis in the chat. The silver chain burns. Ooh. Nice. Silver chain burns. So those are our 3 marks. We have a new immortal. My immortal. Nice. And we actually got our first diary. Well, our first and only diary, which is the Book of Misdeeds. which holds the terrors of our past. Okay, so now we can go back to... I can't spell the word werewolf, apparently. I did mark that in the chronology. Yes, I did. Although this should not be prompt 11. This should be prompt 12. Perfect. Or I should say entry 12. And let's find our new event. So, we're at prompt 15. We're going to grab our dice. We're going to roll that d10. A 3. We're going to roll our d6, which is a 5. I don't know how I keep going backwards. One thing that Gioran is not good at is progressing time. So that's going to be a -2, right? So let's go back to 13. Oh, I've had this one before. This is how the servitors of the lineage, this is how the heirs of the old noble, the Kata, became my servants. So this is the second iteration of this prompt, which means it will change slightly. Your servants are numerous, enthusiastic, and sometimes useless. Create a skill based on a memory. This is the skill that you use to control them. So we've been away for a while, right? We went to Morvengrad. We tried to reconcile our tortured, nature from the nightmare that we had of Valeria. They probably have been feeling. There's probably been like a rift, right? Like they've not had their overlord, there to serve, which has probably left that sort of religious movement that they formed around us in a state of like disarray. So when we return, it is sort of like, this second coming. It's like, because I can't imagine there's any other place that we feel safe other than whatever estate, that we claimed outside of Morvengrad once we assumed power over the lineage of the noble Kata. So I feel like the skill that we develop, and this can be based off of one of our memories, right? Founding memory, probably. Yeah, guarded dutifully by the heirs of Kata. Yeah, this feels like this is probably the one where this has to be sorted. I feel like the skill that gets developed is like we become like their return, like deity returned, I think is the skill. Like we come back and we're like, it has been long since your master has left your graces, but now in blood and shadow do I return to you. So bow, kneel before Gioran and serve dutifully. Like we just come in and we are giving them the speech of a lifetime. We rekindle their zealous admiration of their like vampire god, and then we can use that as our bargaining chip to continue their service, right? I think that is probably the way that goes. So let's head over to our Microsoft OneNote. And let's go to... Nice. Oh, I want to move this computer screen a little bit. Perfect. Oh, maybe not so perfect. Almost perfect. There we go. So we have deity returned. So let's go to memories, founding memory. And now we have experience 3. And this is the deity returned entry. So, after spending much time away from Castle Kata, I shall call it. In Strigovol, I return to its safe halls, away from the prying eyes of Anastasia and other hunters who have caught wind of me in Morvengrad. In my absence, the heirs of Kata have lost themselves without my guidance, without my hand to guide and rule them. They are lost and despaired. I return I return in force, a being worthy of their worship, a glorious vessel for their fanaticism. They are quick to swear their oaths of allegiance to me once again. And I use the weakness of their souls against them. Now, more than ever, do they swear by the name of Gjoran. So there we go. That's experience 3. Nice. So we go to skills. We gain the skill, deity returned. Oh, we have to go to the chronology and make a quick update about I return to Castle Kata to my loyal subjects. I reignite their vigor of worship to their vampire lord. They are happy to fall back into subservience. That is not how you spell that word. Subservience to their superior. And that is prompt 13, but part 2. I think that's only the second time we've had a repeated prompt. Yeah, prompt 5, part 2. Nice, we gained a new skill though. And the skills are what keep us ticking in the game. So that is pretty good. Cool. All right. Let us. Oh, that's also cool because I have like the burn marks, right? So maybe that's like a new religious iconography. You know what I mean? Like it's like they're serving me, and it's like the chains are like a symbol of their oath. You know what I mean? And it's like it's burned. Maybe I have them like burn their palms to like also mark them as members of my cult. Ooh, that's kind of cool. So they, you know what I mean? So they are forever marked. They mark their hands with burning chains, much like my own mark, to cement their allegiance to me. Nice. That's pretty metal. All right. So now we go to the dice. We roll this d10, which is a 7. I think we're going to be moving forward. We roll 6, 4, so 5, 6, 7, so plus 3. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, wow, that's we're repeating another prompt. Some mortals have banded together to hunt you, well armed and wise to your tricks. So, yeah, that was Anastasia. That's where we met Anastasia. Oh, so there's going to be more Anastasia stuff here. The hunters are persistent, capable, and well-informed. They know things about you that you do not. Create a mark that is revealed during confrontation. You are driven into hiding in an unpeopled wasteland. Lose any stationary resources. Learn a new skill related to this desolate region. What new name comes to you in loneliness? Oh my gosh. Whoa. That is a big shift. Okay. So we have to take a look at our notes here. So what are my resources? Okay, so I think as much as I did not say that the hidden stash of stolen valuables, well, actually, yeah, it would be stationary because, like, the hidden stash of valuables, like, would have probably been in the woodland originally, right? And I could have moved it to, like, my castle, but at the end of the day, it's still, it's not super mobile. Right? It's still bound to a place. So I think we have to lose each of these resources, which is unfortunate. But now, there's a couple things that happen here. The hunters are persistent, capable, and well-informed. They know about things about you that you don't. Create a mark that is revealed in a confrontation. You are driven into hiding into an unpeopled wasteland. Okay, so let's think. Let's pull out our handy dandy GM emulator and let's roll some things to see what new mark, what new thing happens to us here. So 95 and 51. 95 is punish, and 51 jealousy. Ooh, that's interesting. Punish jealousy. The inverse of that would be nature. Nature overindulge. Ooh. But that is also interesting. The nature to overindulge. I feel like that means they create some sort of trap for me, right? Like maybe through some sort of alchemical blood-based like reagent, they are able to like trigger my bloodlust to such a point that like they can draw me out of hiding. You know what I mean? That like forces me out of safe havens. That's not something I would have known about beforehand. Interesting. Okay. So, what is the mark that I gain from this? The mark that I gain from this, I feel like, man, I'm getting so many marks. I feel like maybe like having my senses overwhelmed for this like causes my eyes to go like really bloodshot, you know, like blood red. And that's like what like kind of takes over my thinking mind and like has me hunting and like and desperate to find this bait that they've placed for me. But like even when the effects of the poultice, the potion or whatever wears off, like, you know, my eyes quite aren't like crimson anymore, but they are still like sort of stained, like they're still like more red and pronounced and like on the edges. Like I'm forever sort of, my vision is a little like hazy and red. Even if it isn't like as pronounced as when the bait is being actively leveraged against me, right? So why don't I say the mark is the red hazed the red hazed gaze. The red hazed gaze. And so this is 36. This is mark 4, right? Which... Oh, and this memory has to go under the hunter and the hunted, absolutely. Experience 2. Interesting. Okay, there's a lot of things that are popping up from this prompt. Experience. Let us... Is this still bold? Yeah. And we'll go back to marks. My eyes are forever stained with a pale red wash. After my senses and conscious mind, cannot spell today, were stolen from me by the hunters. Alchemical blood bait. Yeah, we'll call it... We'll say the blood bait trap. When I catch the scent of this chemical concoction, they glaze over with a crimson pulse that reduces me to a simple animalistic state. Even after recovering from such a... what is the word? Such an adult state, my eyes remain touched by the bait's insidious influence. So there we go. How about that? I dig that. Alright, so now we go back to memories. So a couple things happen here. That's the mark we've created. We're driven into hiding into an unpeopled wasteland, lose any stationary resources, learn a new skill related to this desolate region. What new name comes to you in our loneliness? So the first thing is we have to think of what this region is, right? And there's a part of me that like kind of wants to lean maybe swamp because we've mentioned Swamp Thing before, but also like Gioran has fled to the woods. Like he's fled to nature before to find safety, but the woods are now compromised. So like maybe the next thing that he could do would be like to run to like a marsh or like a bog or like, you know, something like that, where it's obviously very lightly what's the word, populated. There's still animals that he could feed on. I like the idea of that. Let's take a look here. Did I give myself some more region names that I could borrow? Ooh. Ooh, what is this? The Gloomstead Fen. Borakova, Valenskaya, the Duskvale Fen. Let's say the Duskwold Fen. All right, so that is the place. So the wasteland is a swamp known as the Duskwold Fen, or the Duskwolds. That is where we run to. And then what is the skill that we pick up from living in the swamp? I kind of feel like... Ooh. Like... Do we... Maybe... I'm playing with the idea of like chemicals, because he's now realizing that like they're using like alchemy and like potions to like kind of toy with him, and you know, like alchemy and potions and stuff usually has like natural ingredients, and like also he feels pain when he inflicts it on others, right? So maybe there's like, this is interesting. Oh, it's kind of like going to like some creepy like serial murderer mindset. But like, you know, what if he's able to like learn how to use the plants and materials in the swamp to create like medicines and you know, reagents that numb or like deaden others, so that when he feeds upon them, right, they are not inflicted with as much pain as they otherwise might be, which means he in turn then suffers less pain. It kind of makes feeding a little easier for him, and it could also be a means by which he like protects himself from the blood bait that the hunters are starting to develop, right? So I kind of like the idea that the skill is I guess we would call that alchemy and herbalism. Well, I guess their version is alchemy and his is herbalism, right? He has some weird skills. Okay, so let's go to memories. Yeah, this one definitely has to go to Hunter and the Hunted. So, oh, and he also has to have a new name. What new name comes to him in his loneliness? The new name. The new name, Dweller, is coming to mind. The Duskwold Fen, maybe like the Dusk Dweller, or like the Wold Dweller. The Fen Dweller, the Wold Dweller. The Dusk Dweller has like a nicer the alliteration to it, even if it feels like a little cliche. The old Dusk Dweller. He becomes the Dusk Dweller. Yeah. Okay. Alright. So, back to the prompt. The hunters are persistent, capable, and well-informed. They know things about you you don't. Create a mark that is revealed in confrontation. You are driven into hiding. Okay. So, some time passes. Spent with my loyal entourage of worshippers But eventually, Anastasia and her band trail me to Strigovol. Unbeknownst to me, the hunters have developed a new method of drawing vampires out into compromising positions. They create a bait with chemicals and blood which drives us mad. Which drives us mad. I was trying to think of a cooler word, but like, I already said blood. I would have said blood mad. Which drives us mad and forces us to ferret out its scent and location. Castle Kata of Strigovol is no longer a safe haven for me, as Anastasia and her band have coerced me out of hiding with this nefarious concoction. My only chance of evading its influence is distance. I flee Strigovol to the fetid swamps that border its uninhabited borders. There, I once again find myself at peace amongst nature. I learn how to use the roots and stems and buds of these new... I don't want to say they're foreign, because he is from here, but he's not from the... They're like kind of foreign to him in a way. Foreign plants to create medicines and ointments which reduce the efficacy of their bait as an unforeseen stroke of luck. I also learn how to brew oils. Yes, we'll say they're oils. That can numb the senses of those it touches. I'll brew oils and serums. Or injects, or punctures, or pierces. I can use this to more easily feed upon mortals and not feel the sting of my ghostly curse upon my chest. I eschew my name, though my loyal followers still occasionally wander the swamps seeking my aid and wisdom. In time, Gjorin becomes a distant... The name Gjorin, the name obscure and becomes a distant memory. And the Dusk Dweller. The Dusk Dweller, the Dusk Dweller would be like a word. He's kind of like a, the Night Saint. The Night Saint of the Wold. Dusk Dweller, the Night Saint of the Wold, becomes my new title in this fringe religion. There we go. That's cool. Dusk Dweller, Night Saint of the Wold. Okay. That was a lot that happened there. That is a huge series of events. We lost a lot of resources, which is tough, because, you know, that's part of our HP, if you will. We need resources to keep moving us through prompts without getting into too much danger. But that was a very cool prompt to get, I'll say that much. Now let's head over to the chronology, and we have to track that this is 16 part 2. Anastasia baits me out of hiding, or I should say, forces me out of Castle Kata with blood bait, and I flee to the Duskwold Fen. I take on a practice of herbalism to defend myself against this new chemical threat and to ease the suffering of my victims, and through them, myself. I take the title Dusk Dweller. What did I just say? Night Saint of the Wold. And continue to secure the loyalties of what are they called? Of the Cotton Remnants. So we definitely, we're kind of like starting a little cult in the swamp. Also, when was Anastasia introduced? So 1, 2, 3, like every 8 prompts or so, unless it's very obvious. That she's been around for a while, but she's still alive. She's getting older, but she's still dismay. Okay, so now we open back up our dice. Let's roll a d6. Okay, so we go back up 1, back to, oh, we're back to 17. Wow, but prompt 2. You are hounded for your crime. Source, confess your crime to any character. Convert an enemy to a friend. You must create a character. You become lovers. Huh. Huh. What could I check here? Oh, I have to check a resource. A skill. I have to check a skill and lose a resource? Oh my gosh. Okay. Is skill Deity returned. Deity returned. Because the only characters that we really have are Anastasia, Radhu, because they're immortal, Marzena, the werewolf. I kind of feel like maybe we, because we still have, if we need it, we still have our armor. You're hounded for your grime. Convert an enemy to a friend or a friend to an enemy. What if an enemy to a friend or a friend to an enemy? You know what? Valeria is kind of like, right? She's a ghost. She definitely, and she no longer exists in her formal. Hey, Xtaz, welcome. Happy to have doing some Halloween vampire playthrough, and I'm sussing out a new prompt something here. So Valeria was never intended to be an immortal character, but she is kind of like, in a way, we wrote her as she was a ghost in the vision. So perhaps she is actually a ghost in the more supernatural sense, which does make her immortal. And that would be very interesting. Confess a crime to a character, and then convert convert. If you must create a character, you become lovers. So I was really tempted to like make a new character so that Gyorin, or at this point Dusk Dweller, would have like a love interest in the picture. But I do find that very compelling, that like to confess my crime to the ghost, which marked me, right, because of the crimes that I have committed. Your stream was lagging for a bit there, but sorry about that. Yeah, sometimes, I don't know. Nar was having problems with it yesterday too, but eventually it settled for him. He had to restart his internet, I don't know. But, hello. I kind of like the idea that we have to, that we, in like our deep regret and our sadness, we confess our crimes to the ghost of Valeria. And in a way, maybe she doesn't absolve us or maybe even fully forgive us for our crimes, but she at least recognizes our remorse and like our state of disarray, of panic, of plight, and, you know, sort of maybe changes her stance about how dire the punishment was that she placed upon us was. I dig that. That's kind of cool. So if we go to, man, we're gonna lose a lot in this one. So we have to check a skill and lose a resource. So if we go to our skills, only the strongest survive. Wood lore. I'm gonna say, Xtez says, how does the game end? Not really sure how this goes. It's probably going to be a couple sessions, so unless I get really unlucky and I just run into a couple of prompts that kind of doom my character. But how the game is written is, essentially, like right now, you'll see here, Taz, I've run into a prompt that says I have to check a skill, which is essentially to remove it from my character and lose a resource, right? Resources and skills are things I gain through certain prompts, and I can lose through certain prompts. If I ever run into a situation where the game requires that I lose a resource or a skill, and I no longer have a skill or resource to offer for the prompt, then my character ends in that moment, and you have to find a narratively satisfying way, you know, create that for the end for the character. You can substitute resources for skills, right? So if you run out of one, you can borrow from the other. But once again, that just means that you are borrowing from a limited pool, which is furthering your end, right? So the skills and the resources are your HP, if you will. And every time you hit a prompt that requires you to sacrifice some, you lose some until you hit 0. I am curious, so you make up the whole story? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I use some tools like the GM emulator, which gives us some cool words and like prompts to spark our imagination, right? And obviously I use the prompts that are initiated from the book itself as like a base point for what we build off of. But otherwise, it is all coming out of the top of my head, on the fly, for better or for worse. Yeah, so that's kind of how it works. So what we're going to say here is I think the skill that we're going to check is only the strong survive, right? Because we are... Or is it only the strong survive, or is it bloodthirsty? We're admitting to our crime. We commit a despicable murder. But we didn't commit that murder out of bloodlust. We committed that murder of Marcellus out of protection of our identity, because he was going to rat us out as a vampire. We got caught eventually, but I want to say it's maybe only the strong survive, because at least in Gioran's mind, or now the Dusk Dweller's mind, you know, every choice that he's had to make has been to keep him alive and to keep him strong. This was not a life he chose, if you can even call being a vampire a life. This was thrust upon him. He was cursed with this at the hands of another vampire, someone who bested him in combat in a war that he didn't even want to be involved in, right? He was a peasant who was conscripted into the armies of the noble Kata on behalf of, like, the nation of Strigoval. He didn't ask for any of this, but he was wrapped up in the machinations of politics and warfare, and then he faced Radhu, the vampire mercenary. Radhu bit him, converted him. So I think there's a part of him that when he's confessing these crimes, it's colored through the lens of, you know, this was not what I intended my life to be. This was not the pain I wish to rend upon the world. This is the pain that the world has given me, and now I must endure. You know, there's sort of like that aspect of it. Taz says, I wonder how this would go with co-op with other people writing a story with you. That would be interesting because they could turn on you. There is actually a section in the book that does cover multiplayer. I haven't read through the rules yet because obviously I'm playing single player, but that could be something that, you know, once we finish Gioran's story and we see how it ends, I would like to maybe take a look at the multiplayer rules to see how that is handled, because that is very interesting. Like, how would this game handle multiple storytellers? Yeah, like, would they... How much narrative control do they have? Can they turn it on you, as Taz implies? It would be interesting to see. So, I think the resource we check is only the strong survive, and I think the resource, we have to check a resource, right? I think maybe now that I have it under the lens of, you know, remembering that he became a vampire, that his life became this way because of his time as a soldier, maybe the resource that he gives up is his nightly regalia. You know what I mean? Like, maybe he's been wearing it all this time, or like carrying it with him as this like reminder of how he became who he is, and now that he's going to be confessing his crimes to the ghost of Valeria, confessing that this was never his choice, never what he wanted, it becomes this sort of poetic moment where he can take the armor and like cast it into the waters of the bog and watch it sink below the murky depths. You know, like the symbol of the old iconography of the Cotton Dynasty, you know, sink below the sludge and the fetid waters. And it is sort of like a way of him casting off some of the guilt and the weight of all of the death that has to have been delivered by his hand, either through his service in the armies of Kata, or like now that he has become a vampire and lived a few generations and obviously murdered and devoured several people. I think maybe that's the lens we take it through. It is unfortunately one of our last resources, so we are losing some of our critical pieces here on the board, but it is pretty cool. And we do, we confess to a character, convert an enemy to a friend, or a friend to an enemy. Yeah, I think now Valeria, let's go to our, actually, yeah, let's take a look. Oh, this definitely goes into Knightly Ascension. Absolutely. Oh no! But, oh, interesting. Oh, no, wait, okay. So, as the game says, we can only house 3 experiences to a memory, right? And we can see Knightly Ascension now has all of their experiences filled. But we did have to create a diary early on, the Book of Misdeeds, to capture some of our memories. We did already fill the diary with Terrors from the Past, but I think this could be a good opportunity to enter a new memory into the diary. Oh, I did not mean to do that. Undo delete. We want to delete the empty entry. So let's go to our memories. Let's grab Knightly Ascension. Let's move it into the diary. So now we have space for a brand new... Oh, what is this now? What is this memory? So we are reconciling our past with a ghost. We are literally making peace with our ghosts. So a little metaphorical and a little literal, right? That's the best way to go about it. So let's go to 36. So this is going to be the first memory, the first experience, I should say, that we have within this memory. So let's mark this as red and step into the mind of Gyoran. Oh, Extaz redeemed some sweet nothings. Extaz, here's your compliment. Here's your sweet nothing. Although you are a very new member of this the streaming community, you are such a delightful presence. You ask thoughtful questions. You called me chipper yesterday, which just makes me feel like a special lad. And so you are such a force of positivity in chat. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking around, watching me talk about vampires like a silly little guy. And there's your sweet nothing. Enjoy that. Enjoy that, Taz. I'm going to step into the mind of Gyoran here. You are hounded for a skill. You're hounded by your crime. Okay, so, you deaf are chipper, says Taz. Well, you call him like you see him, and you see him right. I spend my days... Oh, thank you so much for the sub, Taz. You're bringing us ever closer to that goal of 20. Thank you. You actually brought us very close to our goal of 200 and 20. So you are 2 for 2. I'll give you more sweet nothings. Thank you. Thank you for your patronage. I appreciate you. Let's see here. I spend my days wallowing in despair. You won me over with your swoon. Listen, it is a part of my vampiric charm. I'm hypnotizing you, Taz. You do enjoy the stream. You do like storytelling games. That's all it is. You're just being hypnotized. I spend my days wallowing in despair after the loss of Castle Kata. and my riches. Surrounded by aimless sycophants. In the bowels of a dank swamp. pretty terrible. The bowels of a dank swamp. A dank and wretched swamp. I think back upon all of the missteps that brought me to this moment, covered in dirt and grime, sleeping on a bed of moss and roots. Sleeping in a bed of moss and roots, dug out in a hole to protect myself from the sun. You def have a great personality. Thank you. Listen, yeah, I just, what can I say? I like people. I like people who like the same weird stuff I do. It's easy to get along with them that way. Dug out a hole for myself in the sun. My mind is filled once again with horrible dreams of my mistakes and past pains. It is in one of these sordid visions that the ghost of Valeria returns to chastise and berate me for all of the pain I've rent upon the world. But her cries fall upon deaf ears. Nothing she says to me now are not words I have not leveraged against myself. I know of my failings. I know I am monster. I know that my curse, the weight of my curse, does not equal the suffering I've brought to mankind. In these moments, you need to Tess says you need to give a big old Dracula. Gjorin the vampire. Very fitting, very fitting for Halloween. In my moment of weakness, do I see pity in Valeria's ghostly visage? In her, I believe she also, in herself, in her immortal self. Nar says, had to stop because something went wrong with your RAM or was incompatible. Oh, I'm sorry, Nar. That sucks. Gonna return the RAM and already ordered a new stick that'll arrive tomorrow. Oh, okay. Well, it arrives tomorrow. That's not the worst. Too long didn't read. I'm back. What did you miss? Well, Nar. I feel like there was a pretty big chunk of stuff. Mostly the main things is the vampire hunter has not stopped chasing us. In fact, the vampire hunter became so persistent that she developed this like chemical bait to drag us, like to confuse our blood senses, drag us out of hiding, and essentially chase us out of our castle and into a bog, into a swamp. Which we now have. We live out in exile in the swamps. We've even sort of lost our name to try and confuse the hunters even more. And so now our little cult, our little cotton cult, it just is now like living out in the swamps with us, and we've become this sort of like estranged herbalist, sort of knight like stalker character. It's taken a weird direction. Gyorn's not doing so well. But at least right now he is making peace with the ghost of Valeria. Nar says, I win you over with the swoon, pew 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 pew. I do what I can. In her unnatural state, she too has had time to ponder the sins of war and thievery that we committed together in service of the Kata, of the old Kata dynasty. Together, we finally reconcile our ages-long feud and find in each other a certain peace that can only be understood by another immortal being. In a ceremonial sacrifice of our former selves. Level 1 construct is not as sentient as beans. Level 1 construct is very much a construct in the sense that it just parrots out information that is necessary to the stream. But beans will always talk and play with you. In a ceremonial sacrifice of our former selves, I take the last remnants of my armor of my knightly order of Kata and cast it into the waters of the Duskwold as it sinks below the dark surface. I feel lighter when its silvered surface finally disappears from view. I feel a cold sigh of relief from Valeria upon the back of my neck. In a way, this releases us both from a guilt older than most mortals alive in all of Strigoval. Say, Nar, you are sentient, I won't hear anything about it. How old am I, says Taz. How old do you think I am? Blink, 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 blink. I am in my early 30s. Let's put it that way. I have a birthday coming up in December. But I'm in my 30s. I'm a young 30 boy. Perfect. Okay. So that's a big shift. And also we've made friends with our ghost, which is kind of cool. So let's go back to the chronology. That was a big event. That was 17 part 2. So to encapsulate that, you really are a Dracula. I was gonna say early 20s. Oh, now who's trying to cause some swoons in size? Taz, are you trying to butter me up? Well, at least you didn't hit 40 like I did recently. Listen, 40 is the new 30. 30 is the new 25. 25, you're basically a child. I don't make the rules. I don't make the numbers just happen and I'm a part of them. Nar says, you have a birthday coming up this Saturday? Happy early birthday, Nar. Hoping to get my PC done by then, but that may be too optimistic. I mean, It's your birthday. I feel like people should be finishing your PC for you. Building the PC for you. That should be your birthday gift. But happy birthday. Yeah, that's awesome, Nar. Congrats. So to encapsulate this piece of the chronology, what happens, the ghost of Valeria confronts me for my crimes and murders, and I confess to her the pains I feel for all of my misdeeds across Strigoval. Together, we bury the hatchet and sink the armor of old Kata. We find in each other a newfound friendship in undeath that we could not sustain in life. Interesting. I dig it. And that is prompt 17.2. Prompt 17, part 2. 16. Oh, chronology 16. Would be sweet to be able to do a Starfield birthday stream. Hell yeah. I don't know, actually. Do I have stuff going on Saturday? I can't remember. October ended up being a super busy month for me. Because I have, like, a friend's birthday. And there's so many, like, Halloween parties and events happening. I have a friend playing a show. It's jam-packed. But if I'm not doing anything Saturday and you get the PC up and running, I will stop in and say hello. Tess says, at my age, when I'm out with friends who are all in their 20s, I get carded along with them, and I tell you what, that feeling is a good one. Yeah, you know what's weird? I don't get carded that often. And I think it's just because, like, the nature of living in, like, a big city and, like, you know, I don't know. I just feel like most of the places that I go, they're just like, oh, you look all right. Like, they're just trying to shuffle people in as quickly as they can. You know? I think they only really are discerning when it's quite obvious. But maybe I'm wrong. Although I guess most places will check your place, not at the door, but at the bar nowadays. It's probably the stash, yeah. You know, my little, I don't know what you'd call this. My Edgar Allan Poe? My tortured artist? Alright. So now, we will roll the D10. We're going backwards again. How do I keep rolling backwards? 1. Okay, so we're going back only 1 space. Which is 16 again! Oh my gosh, this is all of these hunters. 16 part 3. Returning to civilization, you wreak a terrible vengeance. Finally! We've been on the run from these hunters for so long. Finally! Let us get what we deserve. Justice for the vampires. Justice for Gioran. Returning to civilization, you wreak a terrible vengeance upon the hapless descendants of your harassers. Songs will be sung of their suffering for 1,000 years. Historians will use it as a benchmark for evil. Create a mortal character that was innocent and good until you exacted your toll. Do not actually write down what acts you committed against these people. That's fair. Because yes, oh man, that's like so spooky when you think about it, because basically what, I'm like this bog dwelling, I sort of become almost like a cryptid, you know what I mean? I'm like this creature that lives in a bog, right? I've lost my name. I'm the Dusk Dweller, you know, the Night Saint of the Fens. that, like, this cult comes to like, venerate and, like, offer tribute to me. Because we still have the Cotton lineage as a resource, right? So, we live in the bog. We're essentially like this swamp cryptid, this supernatural being that this cult comes to and, like, offers tribute to, until and, like, you know, the hunters are probably still trying to ferret us out, and, like, using the blood bait, but now we've developed the herbalism to counteract it, right? So we're able to hold them off, and, like, the cult probably helps us, but it's still, like, on a long enough timeline, it is a losing battle. Until one day we decide that the only way we're going to be free is if we go to the city and we wreak our terrible vengeance upon the hunters, the lineage of the hunters, just like we can entirely decimate them. Except for apparently one mortal character that was innocent and good until we exacted our toll. So to me, that sounds like that is a descendant of Anastasia. At this point, I think Anastasia is dead. I think it has been, especially because they say the descendants of our harassers. So at this point, Anastasia has long passed, but her proteges and her family and her lineage has continued to hunt us. Probably because we've always evaded her, and at this point we've become like this mythical catch for them, you know? Oh, but that's so satisfying. Like, I can just imagine, you know, they're like covered in like swamp muck and grime, and they're wearing like leaves and like brambles and bark, and they crawl through the streets late at night, and they just, I mean, I guess we're not supposed to write down what we do to them, but you can almost imagine that it is just this, like, big ritual, you know, culling of some kind, and we take some much-desired vengeance against all of the remains of Anastasia and her ilk. I don't know if I ever said this, says Nar, but you sort of look and sound like a mustache Ben Schwartz. And I mean that in the best way possible. Okay, so here's the thing, Nar. This is not the first time that I've received this comment. Fleetwood is also now giving us a... is this a nail bite because of the terrible vengeance we've wrought, or is this a nail bite because you're confirming my Ben Schwartz lookalike status? This is not the first time this has been pointed out to me, and a very funny story actually comes... I'm going to take a side note from our path of blood here for a second. Maybe a couple years ago, I used to run a D&D events for a game store, right? And it was like an actual play, like people would show up, and this was like just sort of when... like the bad thing that happened, the great cough that happened, was like letting up, and like people were doing in-person events again. And so a lot of the events were driven towards like young kids who were trying to like get socialized and like play games and like, you know, meet other kids. And so I ran like youth D&D games for a little bit. And what was really funny was that two of the kids, they were best friends outside of this play space. They joined together, so they already were friends, but I guess they were making more friends. But like they, of course, were inseparable, and they were also incredibly difficult to deal with because they were best friends. So like they were always sort of like whispering and like, you know, talking shit and like just causing problems because they're young boys, you know, and they're best friends. But like one thing that they did was like when they they started making jokes that I was Ben Schwartz, and they would, to the point that one of them named their character Jean Ralphio, and like would do Jean Ralphio. I'm like, you are too young, I feel, to be watching Parks and Rec. You shouldn't. I feel like a lot of these themes are probably lost on you. Also, like it's very just weird to me that you not only know Jean Ralphio, but you know Ben Schwartz. Like you understand the separation between the actor and the person. I was just like, I did not have this frame of reference for people at that age. But like, named his character Jean Ralphio, would like constantly sort of like make jokes about like, you know, how like Tom was to me, or like would make references to like Parks and Rec characters to me. And it was like, I'm not gonna lie, it was funny, but also it was so, it just derailed everything. Do you know what I mean? Because like, we'd be in like the middle of a game, I'm trying to run for like several young kids, and like they would just start breaking into not 30 Rock, Parks and Rec references, and you would just have to like let it run its course. I mean, like, you could try and you know, guide with a more instructive hand at times, but like, you're not their parents, you know what I mean? There's only so much they're willing to listen to. But yeah, so that was like an entire campaign that I did for a bunch of younglings whose character was named Jean Ralphio, and they never let me live it down that I reminded them of Ben Schwartz. So there you go. You're not the first, Nar, and you probably won't be the last. So where were we? Oh yes, just murdering an entire bloodline of people, as vampires do. I just want everyone to know that songs will be sung of their suffering for 1,000 years, and historians will use this as a benchmark for evil. I'm doing full-scale villainy right now. You know what I mean? But we have to create a mortal character who was once good until... So we pretty much traumatized them into villainy, right? Let's roll a d6. A dude descendant. What's a good name for this dude descendant? How about... Ooh. Lucian. Anastasia. This is the descendant of Anastasia. So we gotta go to characters. So at this point, Anastasia is removed. She's long dead. I don't know why the numbers are not numbering now, but okay. I guess maybe I should have done that a different way. Oh no, I'm making everything break. We're gonna go 3. Oh my god, what am I doing? My word processor is not computing. I'm gonna go. There we go. There we go. So things lost characters. 14. So Anastasia, the hunter, the first hunter. She has. You know what? She was a hard ass until the end, man. I don't think Anastasia died in battle. She died of old age. Anastasia died of old age, surrounded by trophies of successful hunts. Giorin was the prize she never could claim. So there you go. Whoa! Gave the whole party a re-roll, Fleetwood. Thank you. Are we saving that for a D&D, or can I use that now in case I want to progress the story forward? Nar says, sorry for derailing. Hope it wasn't... No. It was not an insult, Nar. I find it hilarious, and I think Ben Schwartz is hilarious. I am thankful for the comparison, so it is not insulting. Thank you. I appreciate your comparison, and you did not derail. We're hanging out. It's a Halloween stream, but we're hanging out. We're having fun. You know what I'm saying? So no apologies necessary. Everything is good. Fleetwood says, up to you. Okay. All right. I'll make a note. I'll make a note that we have a reroll. Just in case. Oh, I can't use... that is the one failing of Microsoft OneNote, is that I can't use special characters in the title heads, because that is like so useful to me. I think well, let me rephrase that. It would be useful to me had I the ability to do it. As Jason Carl says, I'm making a note. All right, here we go. Also, Vampiric Swamp Thing, that's essentially what we've become. I mean, now, who knows, now that we are essentially eradicating the entire order of hunters that pushed us into the swamps, maybe we can sort of reintegrate ourselves into society. We'll see what the future prompts bring us. But yeah, for a while we were essentially living out in the swamp and with our little cult and just, I don't know, draining passersby and being creepy and spooky in the middle of the night in the bog. Okay, so we're gonna go to memories. Oh, and then we have characters. I have to add this character. So Lucian is the descendant of the hunters, and Lucian is driven to, what do they say? It was once good until we exacted our tool. So driven to dire extremes. All right. After what would be the name of this event? The Night of Long Blood. Because the streets ran red with the long trails of viscous red sanguine life. Nara says, dang, that's pretty cool and unique. Was that mostly from prompts in the book, or did some of it come from Mythic? Honestly, most of it came from the book. I mean, I told it that we were going. It said we were exiled to a wasteland, and it didn't really specify what the wasteland was. I decided to make it a swamp, just because we'd had previous situations where Gioran felt at peace within nature, but the woods were compromised. So I thought, what's an uninhabited place that would be kind of like near this like Slavic wooded land? I'm also thinking of like Barovia, right, from like D&D. There's probably a swamp in a horror story. Let's go to a swamp. But yeah, I mean, like, we did get pushed into exile from the prompts, and that place was a swamp, and we did have a cult following us from previous prompts, so it all sort of like built together. So let's go back to, oh, and I have to add this to a memory. Well, the memory is definitely not going in making peace with our ghosts, or is it? Hunter and the Hunted. I think this is, no, it's definitely going in the Hunter and the Hunted. Oh, we have a space in that memory. Oh my gosh, yes. This is the perfect capstone for this memory, right? I can only fit 3 experiences to a memory, and the final memory is me eradicating the entire lineage of old hunters. Just the narrative, the circle, I would say the hero's journey of it all, but we are certainly not a hero. The anti-hero's journey, the villainous quest. Oh, you can't, I was gonna say you can't write things this perfect, but we are quite literally writing things this perfect. Experience 3. Okay. Enter the mind of the Dusk Dweller Gioran. After ages of being hounded by the hunters of Anastasia's old blood, fending for ourselves in the muck and the mire of the dusk wold, we finally take it upon ourselves to enact vengeance upon all who claim allegiance with her once order. After lying long silent in the bog of the Duskwold, we crawl out from the depths into the night, into the dark of night, and claim the lives of Anastasia's faithful in a bloody ceremony of victory. Forever will this red-stained eve be called the Night of Long Blood. I can't type. Scrawled upon history books and rolls of sagas as an act of unspeakable evil, depravity, gore, and pain. No more do the old hunters vex our fen. Extas redeem time to stretch. Did you add a J to Anastasia to avoid copyright issues? Is the name Anastasia copywritten? I hope not. No, I added a J because I actually generated a Slavic name generator. And they gave me a J in that Anastasia. So I guess there is that's somehow it is spelled. But I must now stretch. Oh, I should also, my fly is a little down. I should also, I'll show you my Spooky Mothman shirt. Spooky Mothman shirt, Happy Halloween, Spooky Mothman shirt. And now we stretch. Oh god, everything hurts. All right. Everyone, do your 1-2s. Oh, you were joking because of Anastasia, yes. What is the... Want to do your up-downs? No, Anastasia is such a great movie. What's the song? Have you heard what the rumors in St. Petersburg? That one. It might be a little out of my register. And what's the bat's name? Bartok? I give her a ha and a wha and a wha yeah, and then I kick her, sir. Bartok was great. Okay. Oh, we do the stretch. We do the Mothman stretch. Oh. All right. Perfecto. So, now that we're stretched, no more do the old hunters vex our fen. Rumor has it that one of Anastasia's remnants, a boy, a hapless boy, by the name of Lucian, escapes our clutches. No doubt he will fall prey to the wider evils of the world. Well, here he's evil. The wider ills of the world. He is of no concern to us. Spoiler alert, Lucian's gonna be a major concern, right? I mean, like, you take care of every single hunter, but the one escapes. This is like every, you know, every fantasy story, and the villain's like, leave him. You know, he is of no consequence. And then, you know, years later, Lucian's gonna come back, a total badass, and drive the final stake through our chest. You watch. You watch. Any character named Lucian is gonna be a concern somehow. That's true. I've never met a Lucian who does not have some impact on the plot. Lucian is a name that begs to move the plot forward. Okay. So the chronology then, that is a huge... Oh wow, how funny. It is the chronology 16, and it is actually the third part of prompt 16. So that actually worked out very well. Oh wait, I didn't mark that this was... Yeah, this was also part 16. Prompt 16, part 2. So we've actually cleared out all the prompts on 16, which is interesting. What has happened here? Oh yes, the Dusk Dweller. Actually, the Dusk Dweller could be the Dusk Dwellers could be the name of our cult, right? Now that, like, we've lost our name. Same for Lucius Nar says, but that one always seems to be a child character. Well, this character is starting as a boy. Will eventually become a man. Tess is facts. Probably because both names are so close to Lucifer. Yeah, you can never really escape the biblical implications, can you? And I say that in the widest possible scale. The Dusk Dwellers, at the behest of their Night Saint, spills into Strigoval under cover of darkness. They expunge the heirs of Anastasia and her hunters from all existence. It goes down in recorded history as a massacre most foul. A single survivor, a boy by the name of Lucian, manages to escape. Alright, and that is prompt 16. Prompt 16, part 3. So that completely erases that prompt from the board. Okay, let's grab our dice. Let's roll a d10, a 2. All right, and let's roll our d6. Oh, we can't, so we would have to go to 17 again. Ooh. So we can't do the same prompt. So we would go to 17, and then 17, now we've done part 1 and we've done part 2, so now we would have to do 17 part 3. You fight a duel with a beloved character, create one if you have none. Check a violent skill or appropriate resource and win by killing them, or gain a mark and flee to another land. Interesting. Interesting. So we don't have a lot of beloved characters right now. At least any that make sense to murder, right? Valeria we just made friends with, plus she's a ghost. Rodhu we've not seen since the day we were turned a vampire, So I really wouldn't say he's beloved. We don't even know who or where he is. Marzana the werewolf is just kind of on the loose. So I don't really think she's a factor, and neither is, I mean, Lucian's not beloved. Lucian is, you know, we never cared for Lucian in the first place. So I think we would have to create someone, and this is also a beloved character, which is an interesting phrasing, beloved character. It does imply a certain amount of familiarity or allegiance. Check a violent skill or appropriate resource and win by killing them, or gain a mark and flee to another land. Okay, here's what I'm seeing in my mind, right? The Dusk Dwellers are cult. They are, if we trace their lineage back far enough, they are the heirs, the blood heirs of the crowned Kata dynasty. They were the nobility of Strigoval. And Strigoval is where we were chased from initially, right? So if we sort of come back in force, right? We bring the cult from the swamp back into Strigoval. We you know, slay all of the hunters. We sort of retain our base of operation, you know. Perhaps there is a descendant, you know, one of our cultists who recognizes that they are Strigovali nobility, right? They know their heritage. So maybe they try and, you know, leverage their righteous place, you know, at the throne of the Strigoval nobility, to try and usurp control of the cult. Like try to convince the other cultists that, like, this is who we were. We were the Cotton dynasty, right? Like we were strong, and we allowed this blood-sucking monster, like, to destroy us. You know, we should break free from the yoke of his control. We know now what we're capable of. We've just eliminated, like, all these enemies that this guy was running from, by the way, right? Like, Gyorin ran from the hunters, and his cult helped them kill the hunters. So if he needed us to help him defeat the hunters, why are we still bound in service to him? We should lead our own destiny, right? And of course, this is something that the Night Saint Gyorin will definitely not let happen. Will not let this upstart. And by beloved character, I would say maybe they were a close vizier to us, you know, like a high-ranking member of the cult, probably, you know, one of the high-ranking Dusk Dwellers that was, like, loyal to us. But there's no way we're gonna let them try to pull focus from us, and we will definitely. Oh, but that's interesting. We check a skill, which means we lose something, which means that brings us closer to death. Or we gain a mark and flee to another. But there's no way. There's no way we just came back from exile. There's no way we're letting ourselves flee to a new land. No way. Maybe if we were more desperate, but we do have violent skills to spend, right? And I think that will be sword for hire, right? I think, because Bloodthirsty's also violent, but I'm not really seeing sword for hire really being a part of our story anymore. Like, we're kind of a far cry away from being the mercenary that we once were, right? Like, we're essentially a cryptid who is now coming back to the Strigoval Oh man, is now coming back to Strigoval without any hunters, and is sort of killing the last of the naysayers, the dissenters, right? Of even his own internal like Strigovali bloodline. So really, like, we're like taking like direct control of Strigoval in a way that we've not really done before. But I think using Sword for Hire as the skill, I mean, obviously we are a much more powerful combatant, not only just physically as a vampire, but like our training. We've been training in swordplay and warfare for generations. Whatever insurrection, whatever rebellion, I imagine probably that this rival priest, whose name, we should probably generate this character, right? So let's roll, see who they are. So I normally do boy, boy, girl, girl. Okay, so it's a lady. Valeska. Nar says, this is as mythological a creature as can be. I know. The Night Saint, like an ancient version of Jason Voorhees. I truly have become a spectral force of murder. Taz says, I gotta go, but it's fun hanging out. Have a great night and stream. Thank you, Taz. I appreciate it. Thank you for stopping by. I hope to see you again. Maybe next time we'll be running a little bit of a different format. I'm gonna play a lot of this during Halloween because I want to finish it for the scary month. But I'm happy to have you, and thank you for subscribing. Thank you so much. Your time is so appreciated. And enjoy the rest of your night. So I think what is gonna happen here, we're gonna mark Sword for Hire, and so her name is Valeska. Valeska is a character. She's immediately going to go into lost characters because we are killing her. But, you know, she's moving the plot along, which we are so thankful for. So Valeska, we'll call her the Strigovali dissident, right? So Valeska, so she was once a high-ranking member of the Dusk Dwellers. She recognizes Strigoval as the ancestral home of her people and attempts to reclaim it from the Night Saint. Through violent protest, the what's the word? The uprising is swiftly put to rest, and Valeska is slain. Period. Okay, so now let's go to... Oh, this has to go into a memory. What do we have left? Spoils of War is full. Vampiric Birth is not full. Founding Memories are full. Maybe this is... Maybe this is like making peace with our ghosts? Because, like, the ghosts being like... the ghosts being And yeah, because here, so in this memory, we were bemoaning all of the pain we were forced to do under the rule of the Strigoval, right? Under the Cotton Dynasty of the Strigoval. If we allow Valeska to kind of reclaim her throne, right? That's sort of like reigniting the Cotton Dynasty, who we once served, who forced us into war, right? We don't want any memory of the Strigoval Empire, the Cotton Dynasty, to stay. We want it erased. That's why, that was part of the reason why we forced them into our servitude and turned them into like our blood cult, was like we wanted to erase their memory from history and sort of rewrite it in our image. So I feel as though this is probably a good prompt to add to this memory here. So what do we have to do? We fight a duel with a beloved character. Create one if you have none. We did. Check a violence skill. We did. And win by killing them, or gain a mark and flee to another land. So no, we did kill them in combat. So experience 3. And let us mark this in red. Make it big. And let us enter the mine of the Night Saint. Upon our return to Strigoval, whispers of... Oh, what is the word I'm looking for? I'm thinking of a word that's on the tip of my tongue. Whispers of disharmony and mutiny begin to stir amongst the Dusk Dwellers. It appears that my loyal vizier, Valeska, recognizes Strigoval as her ancestral home and wishes to reclaim it. She rallies some of my flock into this heretical rebellion, claiming that if I require their services to rid myself of the hunters, then certainly they would have the strength to defeat me and unbind themselves from their ages-old servitude. Battles rage throughout the keep and on the streets of Strigoval between my loyalists and Valeska's misguided. I ought to use the word rebellion, did I not? It's a great word, but I would like to perhaps switch it up a little bit. Revolt is good. Misguided revolt. The battles, the conflict escalates to a duel atop the parapets of the Cotton Keep. where Valeska and I make our final stands in the aftermath of this test of wills and might. I, the Night Saint, stand victorious. Castle Kata is mine. Strigoval is mine. The lands are renamed. Well, his original name was Gioran. The lands are renamed Gioroval. Gioroval. And Castle. Can't type tonight. Castle Kata. Castle Kata. I can't type. Becomes the Night Keep. I am crowned as the Dark Lord and master of this new empire, forged in darkness, under an unending, unflinching night. How about that? I think that's pretty badass. We essentially we destroy the last of the empire, which like forced us into servitude. We completely erase them. We stop hiding. For so long we were like using the Strigoval and the Cotton bloodline as like puppets, right? Like leading from the shadows. But we've killed all the hunters. We were like this, we were this mythological being which like rose up from the swamps, came into the city, like obliterated all resistance, established ourselves as like the rulers of this land, right? Like we're essentially becoming Sauron a little bit. Like we're kind of Sauroning everything. We're now stepping into I would say the full light, but of course we don't because we are a vampire. But we are no longer trying to lead in a secret way. We are no longer trying to pull strings. We are no longer running or operating from a place of fear. We have shown our strength. We have shown the loyalty, like our loyalty to we have shown that we have those who are so loyal to us that they will go to war for us. Why not go the whole way, right? So I think that is what happens, which is pretty awesome. So 17. So Valeska, last of the Cotton Dynasty, challenges our rule of Strigoval with a rebellion. Our loyalists crush the resistance. Is this the first? Yeah. Oh, I should be talking like Yorin. Or the Night Saint. Our loyalists crush the resistance. And we establish ourselves as a new world power. Strigoval and Castle Kata are no more. Gjorval and the Night Keep are born anew, and the Church of the Night Saint whispers our dark prophecies to the ears of new converts across the land. How about that? That sounds pretty cool. And that was part 17, prompt 17, part 3. I think that's a pretty awesome place to end for the night. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, obviously, we've reached the... Okay. I'm not saying that I planned this, because I didn't. But I mean, like, if this were a book that I did plan, and I wrote, this is obviously the tipping point where everything will now start crashing down, right? Like, we've established ourselves as, like, the dark ruler of the land, and the last remnant of the hunter who almost murdered us, right, has escaped the massacre, right? So it's, like, truly, like, what other way does this story end except Lucian, like, assuming the mantle of hero and marching back on the Night Keep, and taking us out. Northern Necromancer says, so you're essentially Strahd is what you're saying. That's what it's become. I did not plan for it to go that way. But Gioran has definitely become very Strahd-like in this way. Although, in a much more sort of, like, creepy, culty, churchy way, you know? Strahd very much, at least, you know, at face value, kind of rules with a more traditional kingly nobility kind of sense. This definitely was born out of some weird blood cult, arena cult. It's gone through a couple of different iterations at this point. But yeah, we've essentially, we've gone full Strahd. And, I mean, Lucian here, man. That is so interesting. Yeah, the only resource we have left are our servitors. That's crazy. Nara says, I gotta get my hands on this game. Whether or not I'd have time to play it is another problem entirely. I mean, isn't that always the case with all games, especially, you know, tabletop games, solo tabletop games? I will say it is interesting. You know, I don't really know what I envisioned level 1 to be, except for a place where I play D&D with my friends, you know, when this first started. Playing solo RPGs was only something that I started to do to create more content on the channel to fill time when we did not have the headcount to play D&D. Oh, I'm gonna move it into just chatting. Since I'm just chatting. You know, that was really the original reason why I started doing other things like playing solo RPGs and playing like things like Celeste and Baldur's Gate. But I will say the more time that I spend playing solo RPGs, the more that I realize that it is like such a kind of cool niche part of this hobbyverse that I'm like kind of grateful that making the space for it like in level 1 has afforded me the opportunity to experiment with, because I hadn't done a lot of it until then, you know, like I'd like read a lot of fantasy and written like, you know, short stories and like read books that kind of played with these kind of concepts like Read Your Own Adventures and things like that, but I never really sat down with a game that had like mechanics and, you know, were specifically catered to solo adventures. no matter, and that this is like me with like what 15 years of dungeon mastering experience or more under my belt. Like, so I was no stranger to running games, but not solo games. And I will say that I'm like thankful that by running games in this medium and like being on X or Twitter and like running into independent game publishers who are releasing this stuff and like interacting with them has really been kind of very eye-opening to the whole sphere of what is possible with this genre of game. And I don't know, it's very exciting. It kind of makes me want to write something myself, and that is something I've been toying with. But I'm also working on some other independent independent projects with publishers. So like I don't really know if I have time to be doing both of those things quite yet. But the more I play these games, the more I understand how they work, and the more it makes me want to design one of my own. You know what I'm saying? But so cool. So cool. If you're looking to get this game, Nar, there are many different places that you can buy it. But the marketplace that I bought it from was Heart of the Deernicorn Press. They are also the people who make Fall of Magic, who's another game that we played on stream. And they sell a lot of games, I don't want to say indie games, but like, games from like non-major publishers, very unique stuff. So they actually have a lot of really cool games that I recommend anyone check out. But Fall of Magic being one of them, but now also 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. But yeah, I think with all of that being said, what a night, right? Thank you everyone for coming by and stopping by and chatting and watching in. I've been your host and Dungeon Master, Wolfe Scott. Pleasure to have you. If you just joined us, what did you watch? Level 1 Adventuring is an RPG and TTRPG based stream. We run all the games. We run Dungeons and Dragons. We run solo games like 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. We play digital RPGs, Solasta, Baldur's Gate. To watch all of it, go to our YouTube or our Twitch. Follow us on both. All the previous episodes will be on YouTube, obviously. And follow us on all the socials. We post our go-lives there. I post Homebrew content there. Our Discord has all of that. Plus, we'll be a D&D play-by-post space very soon. So when it comes to, things you can interact with us across all of our different channels, there's lots. We hope to have you. A thank you to all of our stream support people, Streamlabs, Stream Audio, Streamspell, Tabletop Audio, AI Twitch Bot, all of the stuff that makes this run smoothly. If you want to use those services yourself, use the links down below. It helps us, it helps you. We thank you very much. I will be here tomorrow. I don't think the full gang will be here tomorrow, but I will be here tomorrow. And I think I'm kind of feeling a Baldur's Gate night. I'm kind of feeling a Baldur's Gate 3 night, I do want to play 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, but also I, want to switch it up. It might be a Baldur's Gate 3 night if we don't have the head count. If we do have the head count, then it will be D&D. So, to be determined then. But you will see me tomorrow in some capacity on this mortal plane. Corporeal or incorporeal, I will exist. Thank you so much for your time and your energy. You know that it is so appreciated by me and the rest of us here at Level 1 Adventuring. I hope you enjoyed tonight's stream. I see some Zorvarax thumbs up in the chat. Thank you, Fleetwood. Nar says, I look forward to the VODs of these so I can catch up on the parts I missed. Yes, the first episode is live. And I will be throwing this VOD up. I'll upload it tonight, but it probably won't be published until tomorrow or the next day. But you'll be able to see anything that you missed. But thank you so much for all of your time and energy. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your night. Get some rest, get some water, have some fun with your friends, play some of your favorite games. And until then, be easy, be well, and sleep well. I'm going to run that beautiful outro. Hope to see you soon. Thanks, y'all.